Hi everyone, I am Meenakshi and I welcome you all to Tathastu. Today we are going to discuss a very important and very interesting topic, which is State of India's Bird 2023 report, the status of birds in our country. Now this topic can be important for your mains examination GS3 as well as your prelims examination. So let's begin. Why this topic in news? Because in general this report says that the birds are seeing a general drop. So the majority of the bird species which are found in our country are seeing a general drop, or there is a declining trend in the population of the bird species in our country. So this is the overview of this report. Basically it says that there is a general drop, the population of the bird species is declining in our country according to this report, and the report is State of India's Bird 2023 report. Now apart from this, numerous bird species known as Indian peafowl, which is our peacock, then it is rock pigeon, this is pigeon, Asian quail and house crow. So this is Asian quail and this is a crow. So they are increasing in number. So the number shows that these four species particularly are increasing in numbers, or they are showing a upward trend, or their numbers are increasing. On the other hand, the raptors are basically eagles, vultures, owl or hawk, those species, the migratory shorebirds and the duck, they are showing a declining trend. That means their population is declining. So these four species are showing an upward trend and these species are showing a declining trend. This is basically an overview of this report. Now we will diverge into the details and discuss the highlights, the major highlights of this report which are important for your exam. So highlights of this report, beginning with the on what basis these birds were assessed. The majority of species that are routinely found in our country, a survey was conducted on them. They has been assessed for their conservation status according to this report. So basically the birds which are found in our country have been assessed according to their conservation status in this report. Now moving on, the State of India's Birds Partnership. It is a collection of 13 governmental as well as a non-governmental organization, which also include SECON, which is Salim Ali Center for Ornithology, WII is our Wildlife Institute of India, and ZSI is our Zoological Society of India. They have published this report. Now moving on, common and widespread species are disappearing globally. Now this report says the common species which we usually see around us, they are disappearing globally. But in India, because of lack of information, now we have a census on tiger, we have elephant census, we have livestock census as well, but we don't have this census of birds, or we don't have much data about their conservation or the threat which are associated with birds. So because of this lack of information has caused conservation efforts to be concentrated or centered on a very small number of species which we presume that they are threatened. So there is a lack of information about the status of the birds. Now this 2023 report, it is the second edition. The first edition was released in 2020. This closes this gap by utilizing more than 30 million observations. So this report have used the 30 million observation, and these observations were provided by the interested bird watchers, who were around 30,000 bird watchers. They supplied to the eBird platform the information about these species, or if they have seen any rare species. So this information have been provided by the bird watchers. Now this report classifies our Indian species into three parts, which is low, moderate and high category. These are the categories in which the bird have been divided of conservation priority for India. And using these three criteria as well as the criteria of the IUCN Red List. So when we were covering national park, we have seen that the IUCN status of the species is really important, so that their conservation can be done according to their status. If they are more threatened, they are on the verge of extinction, so more attention can be given to those species. So this report also classifies these Indian bird species into low, moderate, high, along with taking information from the IUCN Red List. Now this report lists a large number of species are widely believed to be common as having a high conservation priority. Now we usually assume that we are seeing these birds, lot of birds around us, so they may not be needing any conservation, but this report says that large number of birds which we presume to be common and widespread, that they have the largest number, they have the highest conservation priority, they need the conservation at utmost importance. Now moving on, this is the detailed summary of this report. So according to this report, what is the current annual trend? If we talk about current annual trend, there are 942 birds which have been assessed, and out of them 142 species have been declining and 217 species are stable. Now moving on, how these species are faring. So if we talk about Indian roller, it has been recommended for the IUCN Red List reassessment, and if we talk about Asian quail, we have seen that it is showing a upward trend or the increasing trend. Now talking about what threat these birds face, so number one is the climate crisis or the climatic change. So when the temperature is higher, these birds they move towards when the temperature is high, they move towards the shady areas. They don't travel much even in search of food. Second is disease, which is commonly avian influenza, which have caused the death of lots of bird species. Moving on, the energy infrastructure, the collision of birds with rotating wind turbines as well as the open wires may electrocute them. And lastly, it is urbanization. We are building our homes, but we are destroying their habitat. These are the reasons for their disappearance. Now moving on towards the overall decline, if we talk about 338 species which have been assessed, there was sufficient data to assess their long-term trend. Right? 60% of the species have been displaying long-term losses, while other 40% of in which 359 species were assessed, they were examined, that they are also showing a declining trend. Now if we talk about raptors and vultures as well as other birds that consume carrion and vertebrates, they have drastically decreased. So we have seen in the beginning of this video that raptors are showing a declining trend along with the ducks. Now it may be, what are the reasons for this declining trend? So it may be due to these toxic contaminants in their food source, a decrease in availability of prey. So these are the two reasons why the population of the raptor may be declining. Now moving towards next, over the past few decades, the number of birds which were native to Sri Lanka's biodiversity as well as Western Ghats have been sharply decreasing. So this is the area particularly which is showing a declining trend, the Sri Lankan biodiversity hotspot as well as the Western Ghats. Moving on, some birds are also showing an increasing trend, and if we talk about Indian peafowl or the peacock, its population has been increasing and it has seen a nationwide growth of almost 150%. This Indian peafowl, the nation's bird, and a few other generalist birds, they are showing exceptionally well increasing trend. But in this positive thing, there's a bad thing about it as well, that there is a lot of crop damage and adverse effect on other species, which are snakes and other animals. So their increasing trend is a threat to other species as well as the crops. Now if we talk about the significant dangers to bird species, we have already discussed it. It is forest degradation, lot of forest cutting, Moving on, next is urbanization and energy infrastructure. These are the reasons why the number of the bird species are declining. And if we talk about vulture populations in India, they are still under danger from environmental toxin, and especially from medication which is known as diclofenac, which causes kidney failure in them, which eventually leads to their death. Now, if we talk about other issues including bird sickness, illicit hunting and trading, and the effect of climate change specifically on the migrating birds. These are all the reasons. If we talk about the reasons, what are the reasons for the declining of these bird species? It is forest degradation, urbanization, energy infrastructure, some medications, especially for this vulture population, and the medicine is diclofenac. This question has been asked in your UPSC prelims examination. Now, moving on, there could be bird sickness, there could be illegal hunting, and there could be the effects of climate change. Now, what are the future? What can be the way forward? The report emphasized necessity to protect particular bird species, and for example, the number of grassland specialists have decreased by more than 50%, highlighting the significance of preserving grassland ecosystem. So this report basically highlights that we should preserve our grassland ecosystem if we want to save those birds which are dependent on these ecosystems. So number one, if we want to take a step, so it is preserving grassland ecosystem so we can save the birds. Then understanding small scale change. So we have to understand small changes in birds population, and it will require systematic monitoring and observation of those birds, their lifestyle over an extended period of time. And to understand the causes of decrease or rise, more study is required for the birds, or maybe their census is required. And citizen involvement is one of the most important step, in crucial component of biodiversity conservation, and it must be included in any action or policies which are formulated by the government. So overall, this report shows a declining trend of the birds. We want to conclude it. I hope you found the session interesting. If you find it, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.